Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going? This video is going to be about how to read chord diagrams. Okay, so in my lessons I'm going to be using a lot of chord diagrams, a lot of tabs, and a lot of scale diagrams. Okay, depending on what the lesson calls for or what the content of the lesson is, I could use one of the three, or I could use two of the three, or maybe I'll even use all three in one lesson. But there's a separate lesson on how to read chord diagrams, how to read tabs, and how to read scale diagrams. So this particular lesson is about how to read chord diagrams. Okay, so with that said, let me zoom in here and we'll take a look at how to do that. Okay, so here what you see is a chord diagram. Okay, this is a chord diagram of the G major chord, the basic open G major chord. Alright, and the way that you read this is, this diagram is the same as looking at your guitar like this. Okay, so you have 6 strings going this way and you have frets going down. Okay, so starting from left to right, the left line to the right line on your screen is going to be low E string, A string, D string, then your G string, then your B string, then your E string. Okay, and then going from top to bottom, the thick black line represents the nut of the guitar here, where the neck stops. Okay, and then going down is the frets. So each of these lines indicates one of these frets. Okay, so that's basically, and then the dots indicate where you're supposed to push your fingers down on each fret and string. Okay, so with that said, let's see how we're going to read this G major chord diagram. Okay, so this G major chord diagram is telling you to put these fingers down. And if you look at the bottom, you'll see numbers. Those numbers are telling you what finger to use. Now you can use other fingers if you'd like, but these are just suggestions. Okay, this is the suggestion for what I feel is the easiest fingerings for these chords. So this is telling you to take your middle finger and put it on the 3rd fret of the low E string. First finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the A string. 3rd finger, put it on the 3rd fret of the B string, and pinky, and put it on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Okay, and then the 2 strings in the middle, the D and G strings, they have O's next to them, representing that those strings are played open. Okay, so you strum all 6 strings of this chord. Okay, pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so now the next example of a chord you're going to see is going to be, I'm going to use the open A major chord here. Okay, so again, it's telling you what fingers to use, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, as per the numbers at the bottom. It's saying put your 1st finger on the D string 2nd fret, your 2nd finger on the G string 2nd fret, and your 3rd finger on the B string 2nd fret. And then it's saying to play the open A string and the open E string, the high E string, open. And then it's telling you, if you look at that X next to the low E string, that X means don't play that string. Okay, X stands for either don't play the string or mute it out. And we'll get to how to mute out a string in one of the upcoming chords. Okay, so this chord example is this, just 5 strings. Okay, so you don't want to play that low E string. You want to make sure you pay attention to the O's and the X's. Okay, O means play the strings open, and X means do not play the string at all. Okay, so your next chord example is going to be an E7 chord. Okay, this is an open E7 chord. It's telling you to take your 2nd finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the A string. Then it's telling you to take your 1st finger and put it on the 1st fret of the G string. And it's telling you to play all other strings open, as represented by the O's. Okay, now don't worry about the theory here. Don't worry about why that's an E7. Don't worry about what makes it a 7th chord or any of that stuff. I'm just showing you how to read chord diagrams and showing you the different types of chord diagrams that you're going to encounter and the different symbols. Okay, So we'll get into plenty of theory throughout these lessons. This lesson is not on theory. This lesson is just about how to read chord diagrams. Okay, so with that said, here is your next chord example. This is an F bar chord. Okay, that long, thick black line is representing a bar, and a bar means you're supposed to take whatever finger it's telling you to and push down on all the strings that it's telling you to push down on. Okay, so this particular example is telling you to push down all the strings of the first fret with your first finger, and then use your second finger to push down the second fret of the G string, your third finger to push down the third fret of the A string, and your pinky to push down the third fret of the D string. Okay, so this is a bar chord example. Okay, so we're gonna be using a lot of bar chords in these lessons. All right, so the next example, this is now a C bar chord. This looks just like the last chord, the F bar chord, except now it's telling you to play at a different position of the fretboard. You'll notice that the nut is not here anymore, but instead you see a little 8FR, and that 8FR is telling you that we're now down in the 8th fret area. Okay, so we're down in the 8th fret area, and we're going to do exactly what the chord diagram says. We're going to bar with our first finger all the strings of the 8th fret, and then we're going to push down the rest of the frets as per the diagram, using the fingerings and the fret numbers it tells you to. Okay, so now our last chord example is going to be, I'm going to use a C6 chord. And again, don't worry about the theory behind what makes this a C6 chord, just worry about the chord diagram and how to read the chord diagram. So this chord diagram is telling you it doesn't have the same look as the last chord diagram. It's telling you to just play the low E string and the high E string with your first finger. Okay? Now that's kind of impossible. So when you see something like that, what you're going to do is you're still going to bar it, but just keep in mind that the only notes that are going to sound are going to be whatever the highest fretted note per string is. Okay? So if you bar this 8th fret, and then on the A string you push down on the 10th fret with your third finger, well, that's going to be the note that sounds on the A string. Okay? It doesn't matter that you still have the A string barred with your first finger, because you have a higher fret pushed down on that same string. That's going to be the note that sounds. Okay? So when you see a chord like this, you can still treat it as a bar chord. Okay? So it's telling you to push down on the 10th fret with your third finger, push down on the 9th fret on the G string with your second finger, push down on the 10th fret of the B string with your pinky, and now it's telling you to not play anything on the D string. That D string is X'd out. Okay? And the way that you X that out is you use the meat of a nearby finger to lightly touch that string. Okay, so I'm going to use the meat of my third finger here to lightly touch the D string. Okay, so if I was to have the D string being played, it would sound like this. But now if I use my third finger to lightly touch that string, it mutes it out. Okay, so I'm playing all of the notes in this chord except for the D string, because it's telling me to exit out, and I have my first finger barring the whole 8th fret. Okay, so this chord sounds like this. Okay, so that's a bit of a tough one, especially because it requires you to use a lot of pressure pushing on the fretboard, but that's how you read that type of diagram. Okay, so that is how you read chord diagrams. Check out the lessons on how to read scale diagrams and how to read tabs, in case you're not sure, because that's going to cover all the different types of diagrams I'm going to be using in these lessons. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to hit me up, and thank you for watching.